As some of you may or may not know, because I've talked about it here and there and joked about it a heck of a lot, I have clinical depression. Whee! This is gonna be a fun video. And so what I want to do in this video is give you a little backstory on what depression was and is for me in my life, and then currently how I handle that depression. First off, let me just put out a little disclaimer. This is very much about me and my specific circumstances, you know, the situation that I'm in. So I'm not a medical professional. I can't speak for you specifically or anyone else for that matter and how they should handle things. This is just me personally. I know myself. That's one thing I can talk about on the internet a lot. But yeah, this is just me. So if it helps you, that's fantastic. But it also may not apply to you, and that's all right too. I was an incredibly happy child. Even when I was a baby, my parents said I was just the happiest, chillest baby. I just slept all the time and I smiled a lot, like life was just grand. Because it was. I was a kid. I didn't know anything scary other than what I saw in a Disney movie. Things started changing around middle school. You know, hormones came into play and certain chemicals start changing in your brain and your body starts changing, and things got a little bit darker for me. When I got into high school, that's when my depression really started hitting me hard. Like, whoa. When I was about 14 and 15, it was really rough. I was bullied. I had a really bad eating disorder. A lot of stuff was happening to cause circumstantial depression, which is different from chemical, like clinical depression. Circumstantial depression is what it sounds like. It derives from the circumstances that are currently happening in your life, and it's entirely valid. It's just different. So, you know, when things are difficult, like being bullied or someone close to you passes away, which also happened to me, you go through these bouts of depression. They can be really intense, but it's because of your circumstances. You can still experience that while also having clinical depression. It's super fun. You can do that. And I sure did. Once I was about 16, things in life, circumstances in life started getting better. You know, I was doing better in my classes. I was doing better socially and starting to finally make friends. And despite things seemingly getting better around me, my depression was getting so much worse. Things should have been brighter, but it's like everything had a sheen of gray over it. I stopped looking forward to anything. I really, really hated myself. Who I was, how I acted, how I looked, how I sounded, everything about me. I hated it. When I would try and wake up in the morning, it felt like there were a million strings tied to my bones, keeping me there, not because of physical exhaustion, but because of emotional exhaustion and mental exhaustion. I didn't want to move. I didn't want to continue on. I was incredibly suicidal. I self-harmed, and I had such a severe lack of hope for anything in my life. And I don't know, it was just incredibly dark. Everything was dark. I think the hardest part about depression is that it sneaks up on you. You don't just wake up one day and like, wow, everything is super sad all of a sudden. It's very gradual. It sneaks into your life and your thoughts and your view of yourself and the world. And so it becomes something that's incredibly normalized in your own head. So, not knowing enough about depression and also not understanding how common it was, I didn't think I was depressed. I thought, this is normal. Life is terrible, and so am I, and that's what it is. And I didn't want to keep going through all of that. Ooh, getting real serious. Things started escalating a lot, and I ended up in this position where someone recognized something in me, and they had had a lot of experience with this with their family, and they kind of took me aside and under their wing and helped me recognize what it is I was going through. They then brought me to an adult, their mother, who knew a lot about it, and together they helped me tell my parents and confront this problem, which was so hard for me because I put on this really great, happy, cheerful front because I didn't want anyone to think anything was wrong. And I also didn't want anyone to be like, oh, there's the sad girl. We don't like her. I didn't want anyone to dislike me as much as I disliked me. But I got lucky, and I told my parents, which was terrifying, but they were and are the biggest support system. And of course it was heartbreaking learning that, you know, this person that you created and love is so sad. But above that, they want to help because they love you. And so help came. And it was really needed. It's important to note my depression isn't gone. It's not away from me. I still go through certain bouts of depression. I still experience certain aspects of it, but I'm now able to sort of step outside of it a little bit more and then recognize my symptoms. Things like tiny tasks being incredibly overwhelming, even getting out of bed and throwing something away could be like just so daunting. Could be my whole day. Sometimes just taking a shower is like I did something. It's bizarre, but I'm able to recognize that now. So here are the things that help me deal with that monster known as depression. First thing that was a big help to me is therapy. Therapy is so great. It's so great. And there's such a big stigma behind it because it's admitting that you're not a perfect human being. And nobody is. They just pretend to be sometimes. There's a terrible stigma with therapy. There is. Not just because it's like, something's wrong, I need to go for help. But also, some people have terrible therapists. Or sometimes therapy just isn't for them. For me, a terrible therapist is the TV show equivalent, where you sit on a couch and you say your problems and they say, uh-huh, and how does that make you feel? That does nothing. Nothing. Good therapy is a therapist who not just listens to you, but helps you be introspective and really look inside of yourself and also gives you tools to get better. I got really lucky and I got a great therapist, and one of the things she would do is she gave me little homework assignments that were like writing letters to myself or my parents and actually working towards making myself better. So I felt like I was progressing. And she said the idea of therapy is to keep going until you don't need to. So you have an end goal that's clear, and that's really important. The second thing that helped me a lot and still does to this day is medication. Yet another thing that has a lot of negative stigma surrounding it. A lot of people are hesitant to call depression what it is, which is a mental illness, because it's really heavy to say that, and it must mean that, you know, you really gotta work on yourself, and oh boy, something's wrong, and we've acknowledged it. But it's common. Depression is really common. You're not alone in this. And it is a mental illness. Acceptance is important. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, it's hard. It sucks sometimes. But depression is very real, and it's you know, it's part of being human. Sometimes things are not perfect in a human. And yet again, I got really lucky, and the depression meds that I went on did not numb me. They didn't bring me to a great high like I think a lot of people think depression meds do. They didn't make me all of a sudden really happy. All they did was normalize me. I just didn't have this dark cloud anymore. It didn't mean life was perfect. It doesn't mean I still don't get sad. It just made things kind of even out. Yet again, doesn't always work for everyone. Sometimes it does numb people. It's really hard to find the right medication and the right dosage and all this stuff, but for me it was well worth it. And I stand by that. Number 3 is finding out healthy ways to channel your depression. So I don't turn to substances. I don't turn to people that I think are unhealthy for me. Instead, what I do is I channel it into creative things, like making videos, like sewing, which I did in paper and now do in photographs, in drawing cartoons and sketching things, and sculpting. I do all of those things, and then I put my emotion and my time and effort into that, and it can end up creating something that is beautiful and real. So it's like externalizing everything into this thing that I then can look at, which is rad. And telling jokes. Jokes are so great because I get to take this really dark, sad, awful thing and just put it out there and make fun of it. And by doing that, I'm making it smaller and I'm taking away its power. Taking something dark from my head and then laughing at it is huge for me. So that explains some of the darkness on my Twitter. It's there. It's good. It's good. Bye. Bye. Sorry. I'm just there. And I think the last big thing that helps me, that comes to mind, is being honest with myself and with the people around me, with what I'm going through. So that way, if I acknowledge it, I can work to make it better. And I think it's important to realize that it is not about being happy. Happiness is great, yes, but it's about being healthy. And sometimes people confuse the two. It's healthy to be happy sometimes. It's healthy to be sad or annoyed or angry. It's just monitoring those emotions and how much of feeling those things is good for you. But part of being healthy is allowing yourself to be a person. And that doesn't always mean being happy. And that's totally fine. So yeah, I think that's about it. I hope this helped some people. I know it would have helped me if I had seen this much earlier. And hopefully it can do something good for you. So, thanks for watching. I hope you're doing alright. Have a nice day. Bye.